look so stern, and I'm like, smile.
All right. So I'm Ashley Hunter. I'm back with our Black History Month series. And today I'm very excited to be interviewing an amazing couple, Kioko and Thata. And I hope I pronounced that right. If I did not, definitely let me know. So first I want to just kind of get into you guys' backgrounds, individually, and then we can talk about together. So first, and whoever wants to go first is fine. Just tell me a little bit about your background, where you're from, where'd you grow up, and what's your main career? So,
ladies first. Okay. My name is Thata Mwosa, and I am originally from Botswana, where I was born and raised until I actually left on coming to college here. That's when I left the country. And that was about 23 years ago. So I've been here for 23. It's actually incredible that I've been here longer than I've actually lived. I've lived here longer than I've lived in my home country. So my background is I am actually a filmmaker. So I went to Emerson College to learn how to become a filmmaker. So now I also teach at Brookline High School. I teach film. I'm the film teacher there. Mm-hmm.
Nice. Okay. All right. That's pretty cool. I was looking up some of your films, looking at some of your information too. So, all right. That's good. That's good to know. And
yeah, I'm Kioko Mwosa. I am Thata's husband. I am originally from Kenya. Grew up in Kenya. Same kind of story. Came to the US for college and kind of have lived here in the US more than I've lived in Kenya. We actually met in Cambridge, and that was almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So we've been together for quite some time. We are living in Milton at the moment. We have 3 kids. My background is I'm a software engineer. So I've been working with a large IT company for the past 22 years.
Nice. Wow. Well, I'm glad to have you guys here interviewing with me. Very interesting background. So we have a filmmaker, a film teacher, and an engineer. So how did you guys come together to create this Sawa Trivia game? If you can tell me a little bit about that.
Well, we have a couple of friends. We like to get together to do like game nights. And I think it was towards sort of like end of 2017, 18, somewhere around there. We went to a friend's house and they brought in a game which was called Black Card Revoked. And we had so much fun. And I was like, oh my God, I wish we had something like this. Kind of like something like this for African culture, because this was the first time I actually played a game where I felt like I was familiar with the culture, because growing up in Africa, we consumed a lot of American media. So I grew up watching Cosby Show, listening to Luther Vandross, and like all of like soul music, hip hop music, but also TV shows. So I felt really connected when I played that game. And I was like, what would it be like if we were to actually have something that actually taps into our African culture, like that? We talk about African film, African music, African art. So Kioko and I were talking that night on the drive home, and we were like, we need to look up.
Yeah, so we actually spent some time trying to look for a game, to buy a game, because we were having so much fun with Black Card Revoked. So we spent some time looking, and what we found was, yes, there were certain games that had African themes, but the themes were around, safari or the animals. It didn't have anything to do with the people of Africa, or even the ones that we found were very localized. So, they maybe only just talk about like a Nigerian pop culture, things like that. So
or even like a Kenyan, we discovered there's a Kenyan game.
There's a Kenyan game
there's
too.
a Nigerian game, and then there's a South African game. And for us being married from two different countries. We have a very Pan-African perspective. We don't look at Africa as like regional, you know, like I don't just look at Southern Africa, Botswana, my area. He doesn't just look at East Africa. We look at all of Africa, because that's the continent. And I think that's what we wanted to do. We wanted a game that if someone is from Kenya can play it, if someone's from Botswana can play it, if someone's from Zimbabwe or Togo, you know, and also the diaspora. Like if someone loves Africa, they can play it. If someone has been to Africa or they're curious about Africa, or they just connect to the African continent. So we wanted a game where even for diaspora, like people that don't know much about Africa, they can also learn about Africa and celebrate Africa, because the most important thing was we wanted to kind of promote a positive view of Africa, because there's so much development in Africa that's going on. There's so much innovation. Nobody talks about technology in Africa or innovation. And that's what the game highlights. And I think when we started to research, we were blown away ourselves. We had no idea what was going on in Africa. And I think it got us even more excited, because I'm like, what? The first heart transplant was in Africa, in the world, the first, and Africa is making hybrid cars. You know, there's so many African-made cars that are, Ghana is making their own cars, Nigeria is making their own cars, Kenya has their own cars. There's so much innovation, and I think people,
There's a completely cashless society in Kenya, and it's called the M-Pesa, and you can actually do any kind of transaction, from paying your bills, your electricity bills, to, you know, paying your workers, just all cashless through this M-Pesa cashless society. And it's so fascinating, because it's really addressing, you know, the lower economies of classes of people that don't or can't maintain a bank account. So it's completely leapfrogging over the typical financial systems that are in place. So it's really innovative things that are happening on the continent of Africa. Mm-hmm. And what we found is, even us as Africans, there's a whole lot of knowledge that we don't have about other parts of Africa. So even as we were researching and putting together questions, we learned so much about African history. For example, could you tell us what country has the most pyramids in Africa?
I could definitely not. I would ignorantly say Egypt.
Exactly,
right, everyone would say Egypt.
And to be honest, actually, I thought it was Egypt too, right? Because I think we're fed this knowledge that development is like in the northern part of, like, the Arab world of Africa. The Arab, it's where innovation is happening, or where civilization happened. But it happened in Zimbabwe, where we have the great what do you call it?
The great Stone Kingdom.
The Stone Kingdom, sorry. Yeah. But then there's also Sudan.
Yeah,
you know?
So Sudan is the answer. Sudan is the country that has the most pyramids. And, you know, we'd have thought Egypt, because Egypt gets all the airtime, right? So, you know, these kind of things that, you know, we found that the game is not only interesting to play, but it's also educational, right?
Yeah.
So,
it's fun. We've played for 2 years. We tested the game with our friends. We've invited, and you know, like, our friends are from all over the world, right? We have American friends, African Americans, white. We have Caribbean friends. We have African friends, and these African friends are from all across, like our close friends, Togo, Kenya, Malawi, Cameroon. So we played this game with different people, and one thing they walk away with was like, wow, I didn't know. We had a Jamaican and Liberian couple that came in. They are close friends of ours. This Jamaican guy was like, this is knowledge that I needed to know growing up in Jamaica about Africa, because I think that's the beauty of the game. Like, it opens your eyes to what is really happening in there. I mean, you do it for fun, because we try to do this as a filmmaker. We also try to educate people. We try to bring people into our culture through film, but I think just bringing it through like a card game where we can drink, laugh, and have fun and joke, but we are also learning in the process. And I think that's that's what we wanted to do. And we've actually experienced it with people, just seeing our friends come in and not wanting to finish the game and laughing and arguing. Arguing is a big deal because then the whole thing is like, no, you're not right. Egypt has the most pyramids. And then someone has to Google because they're like, oh my God, I didn't know. Because, you know, you think you know, but then you don't know, right? And I think that's the thing that we like to witness when people are sort of like blown away. They think they know the answer, but
they don't. Yeah, I would have never known that Sudan had the most number of pyramids.
Exactly. Black nation, right?
Like this, we're fed what they want us to know, basically.
Right.
So no, that's definitely sounds very interesting, and it sounds like you guys put a lot of like research into this. How long did you guys spend researching all the different information and innovations that are happening around different countries in Africa?
Well, so it was interesting when we first put the questions down. I think it took us like maybe 2 weeks of just getting all the questions we could think of and putting them down and categorizing them. So we have 6 categories, you know, arts and culture, cinema, sports, business and entertainment, and literature. So we just sat down and just knocked out as many questions as we could. And then we had to go back and do some fact checking, right? So making sure that we would double and triple check the sources. And then after that, we had to go through an editorial process where we have to get the cadence at which people read the questions. Because, you know, the game is a fast game. You have 1 minute to answer as many questions as you can per category. So as a person who's reading the question, you know, you have a certain cadence in your voice that you have to maintain to get the question out quickly.
Yes, yeah.
We had to go through another process of editing the questions to make them, you know, simpler to say, simpler to ask. And then finally, I think, you know, we had to go through another check to make sure that the questions we had kind of lasted through time, right? So you can say, for example, we had a question, what is the tallest building in Africa, right? Well, that can change next year, right?
Actually, so it did change. That question was our original question when we started to—
Yeah, 2 years ago.
2 years ago. And then when we fact-checked Fast Track now, when we're getting ready to actually develop the game, to print the game, there's another building that's taller than that in Africa because it was just in development then. So we try to keep the questions that are fixed, that there's no like movement. And like the current, like what's the strongest currency? We had a question like that, but it fluctuates, right? I mean, currency is like stuff that changes all the time. So we eliminated questions that could cause, you know, could be problematic in 4 or 5 years because we don't know. But yeah, the research was like 2 years of just playing and, you know, and there were times when we realized that we were wrong and we had to correct, just because also when people play the game as we are testing it, they also question some stuff. So it was helpful to actually have people participate before we actually finalize the game, because that participation, like our friends playing it, made us also aware of some stuff that was maybe, you know, question could be phrased in a way that they don't understand and it's not clear, and they will question that. So that helped us also understand that we need to rephrase it or phrase it in a way. So we hired an editor, we went through an editing process, fact checking, and we continue to do that. I mean, right now the game is published now, but we have a second edition because we had so many questions. It was supposed to be bigger than what it is now. We were supposed to be 500 question game, but it's now 300. So we still have like a second edition. We're hoping that it will still sort of like, because, you know, Africa evolves, like things happen in the continent all the time, you know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I wanted to ask, you know, how did you guys choose which countries? You know, did you make like an effort to just choose all of the countries and not, you know, focus on the ones that we
had to force ourselves again. We obviously knew a lot of, you know, Kenya and Botswana because that's where we grew up, but There's also a lot of questions that tend to be, Nigerian or South African. So we're deliberate about, at least having one question from each country on the continent. Sometimes, it was hard to find, positive things for some of the, smaller countries. But, one of the things that we felt is, we want to put a positive image as part of the game. So we didn't want to take the negative questions or the negative narrative that is out in the press and use that in our game. We wanted to take things that highlighted the positivity about the people and the continent.
Yeah, and to add to that, when you think about the biggest country in Africa, obviously Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, Ghana will dominate the game, and they do, right? Just because there's a lot more they are powerhouses of Africa, Ethiopia, including Ethiopia, but yes, there's a lot of questions. I mean, to answer your question, we did an Excel spreadsheet of all the questions where that region, and that's kind of gave us an indication. How many Nigerian questions do we have? How many South African? Because South Africa and Nigeria are leading, right?
Yeah,
and
definitely.
There's so much going on in those two big countries, and there's so much innovation. So we wanted to have a balance, but we recognize that there will be a lot more questions dominant from different powerhouses in Africa. And then of course there's like Botswana. Botswana is a very small country, but obviously me being from Botswana, there's a little bias. There are questions from Botswana. There's a lot of questions from Kenya, because Kenya is also a powerhouse. And then we had to look at the smaller countries like Chad, Togo, like what do we have for those countries? Are we even? So we did make a deliberate effort to kind of make sure that every country is represented.
I love that. Everyone can get an experience of every different country. And so, two questions in my head right now. The first one is, I guess, where do you guys see your game in the next 3 to 5 years?
So right now we are about to distribute in the United States. We've gotten pre-orders from most some are surprising, like California and Maryland, and of course a lot of Boston orders and all of that. Yeah. But our hope is that we'll venture into the continent, we'll venture into the diaspora, like in Europe, because we have a lot of people that are asking, that are in like Europe, in London and Brussels and all of those. So we want to be where the diaspora is, including maybe the Caribbean, but we want the game to be obviously distributed in Africa. So that's our biggest, that's our target really. Like we want it to be available in Africa. So not just the diaspora is enjoying it, because right now, the only people that can access the game is the diaspora, but we hope to grow to those markets.
Nice. So worldwide.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And then my second question was, as an educator, do you feel like, it's getting into schools, maybe like something that you guys want to do? Because just from hearing you guys talk about this is something that teachers could use when they talk about, different, not just about the continent of Africa and different countries, but the different categories, like in business and culture, different cultures and things. So is that, maybe also something that you're looking into?
For sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. We want to go into libraries. We want to go to universities. We want it to be present in even in high school, because I think it's a fun way of learning, because sometimes especially when you teach younger kids, they want to have fun while they're learning. So this is actually an ideal game or an ideal product to kind of like explore Africa in a different way, rather than showing a documentary or reading a textbook on Africa. Yeah. Sometimes maybe like, hey, let's play this game. Let's do the history portion, which is very, like, the history portion is actually the most I mean, all the categories are, but it's just so interesting. So
I mean,
absolutely.
From an education point of view, we have a history category and a geography category, both of which, are applicable to high school students. I mean, even middle schoolers can learn quite a bit in terms of the geography and just facts about, what happened in history and how Africa dealt with colonialism and has really, become what it is today. And obviously we do address some of the, uncomfortable parts of history. But, at the same time, we also celebrate the people, and we celebrate the game, and we celebrate our heroes that come out of Africa that were able to, lead by example and become worldwide figures. So, we have, a number of categories where we have, Nobel Prize winners from Africa, and we have, if you to count them, there's, over 8 or 9 of them that we address in the game in different parts, from, Nobel Prize for literature and Nobel Prize for peace. Those are categories where Africa really dominates, and I guess that's not really highlighted in the mainstream. So.
Yes, I mean, I actually, so before I was admin coordinator, I went to school for teaching. I was a teacher. So, while you guys were explaining, I was like, wow, like how amazing would this be? My primary focus was like kindergarten, first grade, but even, at that age, like you said, they're so like excited about learning different things. So this game I think will be, it sounds like it would be good for all ages, facilitated in different ways, obviously, but yeah, wow. Just, like you said, like just stepping outside of, what the instant Google search or looking at Wikipedia or showing a documentary that may be outdated or paints a different picture. This game would be perfect for that. Wow. So I'm really excited for you guys. Okay, so in this process, what has been the most rewarding thing for you guys so far?
Oh man, the most rewarding thing. That's an interesting question. I think we always feel good about where we are when people play the game and they're like, when can we get it? And they're like, oh my God, I've learned so much. I think for us, it's like, this is why we created this game. Like the fact that people are so intrigued and so that minds are open, right? They are learning new things and they are blown away. And then when they walk away, they tell their friends, and their friends, reach out to us. So I just felt like that's rewarding, because we spent 2 years trying to make it right, and we to see our kind of like our vision come to life, and actually what our intention, what we really wanted to create the game for, like to see people react, get the reaction that we're going for, is so rewarding. I think that's just, if more people are enlightened about Africa, that to us is like the purpose of this.
Yeah,
that's why we do this.
We've been seeing a lot of engagement on our social channels, particularly Facebook and Instagram, and every couple of days we tease a question out there, and we see just all these people like pile on and answer questions, and some are like so sure that they got the answer correct. And
we had fun with that Egypt one, by the way, because we knew everyone was gonna say Egypt, because we thought it was Egypt too.
But yeah, it's been great seeing the feedback, and also just seeing, again, not just our target audience, but also people that we don't know, just responding to the questions, and asking how they can get the game is really has really been rewarding for sure.
That's pretty cool, especially putting it out there on social media. It's a good idea. Okay, so flip side of that, what would you say has been the most challenging part, or most like the thing that has taught you the most? So challenging, or something that's taught you the most so far?
I think that I would talk about challenging. I think we kind of the challenging part for us has been just getting the game done, like the waiting and then finalizing, because when you see your product, you see it, but then you want to make sure that everything is like
perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's been challenging, like also to discover that in the sample box that we have, some of the questions were not right, like correcting all of that. That's been challenging because it's a lot of research, and sometimes we have to let go of the question because we're like, we have to first figure out how to ask it, or maybe let it go because there are other questions waiting that can go in. Just really spending time to scrutinize everything. But also working with the publishers has been challenging because we're all working through cyberspace, right? It's not like you can walk into a building and look at touch it and say, this is what I want. So everything is happening over email.
Yeah, actually now.
Very challenging. And then our publishers are in a different country, so the time zones are different, and so it's, and then of course just business development, like trying to now figure out, because I'm not the good thing is that he's more of a business person. He has an MBA. I'm an artist. Talk to me about art, I can be on. So I think, to me personally, the most challenging thing is like the business, developing the business, and also thinking about marketing strategies, and thinking kind of like bigger picture, distribution and all of that. Those are things that I feel I'm still challenged with, because we know we have a good product, but it's, a good product is nothing if you don't have a strong marketing game, right? You have to market it so you can sell it. So it's nothing. So I felt like I've designed the game, but it's the business that now we need to figure out, like, how do we really get it out there?
And it's about scaling. I mean, we have the ability to sell one package to our friends here and there. But, when you're thinking about scaling up the business, you want to take orders of, 100 orders, or, being able to put it in a big box store and get some mass distribution. So, these are the challenges. And, we're working on this part-time. This isn't our full-time job. So, those, I think, are some of the big challenges we have in place. At which point, do we decide to bring on board somebody who can really help us to scale? These are some of the things that we're thinking about for the future.
Because we are not expert in all areas, and we recognize that in order to grow the business and be successful, we need to bring in more professionals in that
people
field,
who have experience doing that.
So those are the challenges. I mean, I think every business person has challenges like that, especially like trying to
I mean, I totally agree, especially like you guys said, it's not your full-time job, so you have your regular job and you have family and you just have life, so it can definitely be challenging, but those are definitely all entrepreneur woes. I've experienced some of them, definitely not in the same space, but to some degree. Okay, so I have a few more questions. So what advice would you give to someone who, wants to create their own card game, based on their culture, or, based on the things that they're interested in? What advice would you give them?
Oh, man. I would say first, get started. If you're thinking about creating something, create it on paper, write it down, even if it's like, especially a game, write it down, cut out because that's what I had to do. Like,
I was gonna ask that.
I didn't have the game looks good now, the package looks good, but to be honest, you should see how we play. Because I just went to my printer, a local printer in JP, and I said, this are the questions and this is the design, can you cut it out for me? And he cut out like on paper, like glossy paper, but it was like presentable enough to actually have those cards, even though they were not the highest quality, but it was something. And it cost me less than $20 to actually have print out all those cards, because it's like business cards when you think about it. there were 300. So when you think about how many, how like for 300 business cards, that's like $29.99 or $19.99, depending on what. So I just asked them to print it with the size of the business card. And we had those. And all we had was like what we knew, and we took the time to research, and we had the questions. And to tell you the truth, those questions, half of them are gone. Just because we've been playing it and we're like, oh, this is not correct. Oh, there's a typo here. Oh, we need to, so, but you gotta get started. I'm speaking from an artist point of view too. A lot of us have like ideas in our head floating around, but there's no point, because that idea, if you're not going to just get started on that idea or create that idea, whatever idea is floating in your head, somebody else has the same idea and that's working at it. So that's what I've learned, because believe me, now there's like all this other games that we're seeing, and we're like, yeah, we got it done, so you have to work on your idea even if you don't have money, because that is actually, because even with filmmaking, you want to make a film, start with making films with your cell phone, because it starts like that. Like, you have an idea, so don't wait for somebody to give you permission. Give yourself permission to get started.
Or don't wait for the right conditions. Just put it out there.
Exactly.
And it takes effort and energy, right? So your energy is sometimes sucked away from general life, or exhaustion from other things. So being able to push towards that goal that you have, and just spend some time and be disciplined about okay, today I'm gonna really sit down and read through these 20 questions and try to correct them, and get in the energy to do that again tomorrow. I think that's where a lot of people tend to fall off. They get exhausted, and then it gets put on the back burner. So just having the energy to keep at it, and you find that you have whoever is successful in this has committed the most energy to applying to whatever the business or the hustle is.
Yeah, so just getting started and being consistent. So I have one last question for you guys. One last question. What does Black History Month mean to you? And what is its importance to you?
I think it's interesting, because I always feel like it shouldn't be a month, first of all. We live Black history, right? We are constantly reading, at least in our household, and I know a lot of my friends, we have young kids. We're constantly seeking out books that reflect them, right? That have characters that reflect who they are. We're constantly trying to find inspirational content for them, whether it's like Black Panther, watching Black Panther, honoring Chadwick, for instance, or watching something about African heroes. So I think our life, we don't dedicate just a month to Black history. I think Black history is important every day, right? I see the thing, it's important every day. And we do it as parents because it's important. It's important to, especially raising kids in this, society where, the schools that they go to, they are 102, 103, and we want to build them up. And part of building them up is for them to be aware of the heritage and the history of that people, the history of Black people in this country, because they're also living in this country. So understanding all of that and getting inspiration from all of that, because we read Black history, we create Black history with our Sawa, right? So what does Black History Month mean to me? I just feel like, yay, it's the month, but we don't stop. It's every day for us, and it's great that, it's kind of, I don't know, like sometimes I feel like it's almost like some people are forced to think about Black history for that month. They shouldn't, stop. Yes, so that's my my feeling. I think for us, we are just, we do it every day.
Yeah, and it also, we have to practice Black history, right? Black empowerment. So when we work with some of the companies, we seek out, Black businesses to work with. We seek Black successful, or not even successful, but even people that have shown interest in, the kind of work that we're in, helping to bring them along with us, right? So we see ourselves as, we have the power to empower other people, and let's bring everybody along with us. It's not just us pushing ourselves forward. We have to bring our community with us.
Absolutely. Love it, guys. Love it. So I want to thank you guys for being available to do this interview and sharing your experience, sharing your challenges, the positives, and in the game overall. I'm really excited to hopefully get my hands on it. So can you let the people know how can they get this game? Are you taking wholesale orders? Are you taking personal orders?
We're taking everything, girl. Wholesale, come in, come get yours. We're open. We're open 24/7, 24 hours all day, because it's a cyber site, right? So you can find us at the www.sawatrivia.com. That's our website. That's where people can take orders. And I would also just like to highlight our social media, because then we always sort of like have promotions. So if people follow us and like us on social media, it's at Sawa Trivia. At Sawa Trivia, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. So that's where our social media exists.
Yeah. SAWA, Sawa. Sawa means it's good in Swahili, just for your audience here. So
I love it. Thank you guys so much. I'm excited. I'm about to go to the site right now. So
Ashley Hunter.
Yeah.
You guys told me. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for giving us an opportunity to talk about this is actually our first interview, and I was like, oh my God, it's my interview for Sawa. So great. Thank you. This was a great preparation. So it's an honor to be invited to speak on this platform. We are really honored and we're excited. We can't wait to see the interview.
Me too. Wow. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in the big stores, Targets, Walmarts, every store, because this is a really good product, and I think a lot of people, from teachers to family, like it could be a family game, it could be a friends game, like it's just very versatile. So I'm looking forward to seeing this out there and seeing where you guys are in the next few years.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Ashley.